to dismantle the current oppressive structure is to destroy everything.
Yeah.
That's the only way around it.
Nostalgia and like apocalypse, I think, are linked just because there's something missing or gone, or I don't know. I haven't thought it out because I'm not a thinker. I'm just a doer.
Nostalgia for Doomsday? Well, I never.
Rob here. I'm reaching out to see if the current apocalypse measures up to the ones in our youth.
Could pop culture have been so wrong?
So how long has it been since we've actually talked?
You know, at least 20 years, I think.
20 years sounds about right, yeah. Tyler Gillet, and I knew you in undergrad. You were a creative writing major, I think.
Yeah.
Or theology.
No, creative writing, although I moved into religious studies for my graduate work. You know, they kind of go together.
Well, what do you mean? I mean, I agree with you, but I also, what do you mean?
My interest in religious studies was always that religions have some of the best stories. That's how I always saw the interface between like creative writing and religion.
No, that makes a lot
They're
of...
about stories.
Well, how do you find Pennsylvania?
It was very different. My wife and I both kind of moved here not really knowing anything about Pennsylvania. We didn't really do any background on what Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh are like, and we like it a lot. It's been really fun. We've made some good friends here. You know, my wife's work is fantastic. She's got a great department, which is awesome. It's the less commonly taught languages program. She teaches Hindi. They also teach Irish and Swedish and Quechua and Amharic. It's like, wow, I didn't even know people taught these things. I've been doing virtual law school for the last year, and that really sucked. I'm not a fan of remote learning or the law.
No need to fear me. I'm sorry, I thought you was corn.
I'm kind of an introvert, so it's hard for me to make friends. And before the pandemic, before everybody went remote, I was starting to get to know my classmates, and I was starting to hang out with them, and you know, things were starting to happen. And then we went remote, and all of that kind of went away. And you know, I'm hoping to be able to recover that, but only have one more year of law school.
It strikes me as an extra risky strategy.
Did you say extra crispy recipe?
You know I didn't.
I've seen Legally Blonde, and so I do know a little bit about law school, and How to Get Away with Murder. That's another one.
In a lot of ways, we were far more fortunate than a lot of people. One of the things I did with the Women's Law Project last summer was doing a lot of stuff on like labor law, and we did a lot of work with the Restaurant Opportunity Coalition. Yeah. And, you know, just answering questions about, you know, what kind of recourse do we have against, you know, our employers who are trying to get us back to working in person in these unsafe conditions and kind of stuff like that. I was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So it's the birthplace, you know, New Mexico's birthplace of the atomic bomb. Growing up, I was always aware of the danger of thermonuclear war. You know, I always knew Albuquerque was a big target. You know, we got an Air Force base. We got this thing called Monzano Base, which is like an underground base under a mountain. Nobody knows what's there exactly. I mean, the scuttlebutt was always there are nuclear weapons there, but I always heard, you know, rumors like, oh, you know, the Star Wars Defense Initiative, they're actually mass producing space defense satellites under Monzano Base. And
I remember on a trip to New Mexico, maybe it was to see you or somebody, I remember there was a nuclear bomb museum.
Right, we went to the, Energy Museum. They kind of, they tone it down. It's not the Atomic Weaponry Museum, it's the Atomic Energy Museum. But yeah.
But they have like the big fat bomb.
Yes, they have a life-size model of Fat Man there. It's so crazy. I think we got a picture of you riding it like Dr. Strangelove. Roswell in 1947, the Roswell newspaper publishing a headline saying a flying saucer crashed. And then the next day, the Air Force sort of offering a correction of that, saying, no, it was just a weather balloon. So you've got these weird strands that kind of go through New Mexico. All this atomic stuff, threat of radiation and that sort of thing. Then you've got the alien stuff that's going on. We've got all this defense industry in New Mexico, and we've got all of these military bases, and we've got, secret military bases. And so, those two things kind of go together. It's like, are there aliens in New Mexico? Do we have them underground someplace? I mean, it definitely affected my thinking about the world. I remember growing up thinking, we're not going to make it. Going to be something stupid, or we're actually going to go to war because Reagan was crazy. I vividly remember I used to have two different kinds of dreams about nuclear war. There was one kind where I would be out in a car or outside somewhere, and I don't know if you remember Albuquerque, but up in the heights near the foothills, you can look out and you can see the whole city. And so in the dream, I would be up there, and mushroom clouds would start blooming down in the valley, and the shockwave would come rushing and hit me, and at that point I would wake up. I would have the other kind of dream, always took place at school, in the school library, because the school library was the only place that I knew in real life that had a basement. Basements are not a thing we have in New Mexico. In the dream, I knew the missiles had been launched. And so I'm going to the library to go to the basement because that's like the only shelter. And I'm in the basement, and the dream is all about the indecision, because I know the missiles have been launched. Do I have enough time to go back out, find my friends, and get them to the basement or not?
Oh.
Never knew, do I have enough time? Do I have enough time?
The first dream seems like it's terrible in that you get to watch everybody die first, and then you die. So it's like,
Right.
Not only do you just not die with everybody else, but you get to see them first, and then you get to feel bad, and then you get to die. Like, that's a typical, like, middle school-ish type of dream. A nuclear bomb would go off, and for some reason I'd be wandering around the hellscape, and all the orthodontists would be killed in the blast, so I would have these braces on my mouth, and like rabbit meat would stick to it, fur and stuff like that, and I couldn't get them off. And I was realizing that I'd never kiss anybody ever, because who would kiss someone with these monstrous wires out of the back? Like, it was this so super selfish type of dream where I'm like more concerned with the romance that I have with like everybody dying. It was always followed by another dream where, while I was sleeping, a goiter would grow on my neck and get really, really, really big, and it would be embarrassing. So I tried to wear like turtlenecks to try to hide it, but would just draw attention to it.
I didn't really think about my own future very much, because I didn't think there was going to be a future. But I remember when I was a kid growing up thinking, acid rain, just the sound of it, it's like, at some point it's going to get so bad we're going to go outside and it's actually going to burn us.
It's very like splashy name, like murder hornets or acid rain. Like, it's like you hear it and you go, well, that can't be good. The very Toxic Avenger-ish. Like, there was a lot of stories with people turning superhuman because of the pollution or the waste. I remember that being a thing.
Yeah. I knew about blast radiuses, and I knew about fallout, and I knew about all this stuff. And so I think that's why none of my dreams about nuclear war were after the bombs went off. There was that part of me that knew vividly there is no after. But also, and I'm sure this was big for you, but the day after. Now, obviously, I remember the shots of like the missiles coming out of the silos in Kansas and Nebraska and all that. But the thing that really sticks with me after all these years is the very end. I think it was, isn't it Steve Gutenberg in that?
I don't know. Maybe. Or the guy from Third Rock from the Sun.
He's there and he's in this, they've got like this Red Cross center set up, and there are all of these people who are suffering horrible radioactive cancer. And he's, helping sort of triage them and trying to help ease them. The lead actress, I don't remember who, is one of these dying people. And she's definitely dying. I mean, she's not going to survive this. There's no salvation at all.
Yeah, and they went more with like less makeup, probably more of a smoky eye maybe or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of her hair is fallen out, and so she's there and hideous, and he's still got some hair, but he takes off his baseball cap. I remember this. And all of the hair under the cap is gone. Frankly, they're going to be disasters. There's no supply on hand. The idea that every major city is only 2 weeks away from starvation. We're like frogs in a pot. It's warming up, and we don't know enough to get out of it. And there's not even an out of it to get out of, there's nowhere to go.
Is there anything you would like to plug?
So 2 things. One of them is, so I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Friends of Aseema.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we support a educational charitable trust in India called Aseema. So what Aseema does is they provide top quality education to children who live in slums and in tribal areas in India.
Wow.
These kids are succeeding in ways that you can't even imagine. And they really, especially with all of the lockdowns and quarantine that's been going on in India, they really need help. So if you want to go to friendsofaseema.org, anything that people could donate would be super helpful. So that's like my non-selfish plug.
Yeah.
And my selfish is, for me, go to Lulu and you can look me up and purchase a novella I wrote called The Testament of Judas, which is it's a what if story. What if Jesus was actually a necromancer bent on bringing about a zombie apocalypse? And we didn't even touch on zombies. I mean, if Ayn Rand were still alive, she'd definitely, Atlas Shrugged would be a zombie story, I bet.